Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to today and continuing on with Feeling is the Secret. And what I'm going to be doing today is continuing on last time, but I want to really explore this in a bit more practical way today, just with Easter, and just look at a couple of things about manifestation and what it involves. So, what I've done is the Lord's Prayer. I'm going to read it today, but Grace said to me, we really got to reword it. So I just did a little bit of rewording of it, just to make it a bit more about prayer from within. So I'm going to read it out today. And I mean, I'm sure Grace might have some feedback even more, but let's just pray this out and see how it feels. O Thou from whom the breath of life comes, who fills all realms of sound, light, and vibration. Your light is experienced in my utmost holiest. Your heavenly domain abides in me. Your will is manifested in the universe, all that vibrates, just as on earth, but is material and dense. Thank you for wisdom, understanding, assistance to manifest our daily needs. Dissolve the fetters of faults that bind us, karma, as we release the guilt of others. Let us not be lost or caught up in superficial things, materialism, common temptations, but let us be liberated from everything that keeps us from our true purpose. From you comes the all-working well, the lively strength to act, the song that beautifies all and renews itself from age to age. Amen. Sealed in trust, faith, and truth, I am confirmed with my entire being. Amen. What do you reckon, Grace? Improved?
It's improved. I'll change it like your light. So rather than extrinsic going out.
Okay.
I am. So really, we change it to I am.
Okay, that'd be good.
I'll do that next time.
Yeah, let's do that next time. That'd be good. Okay. So let's just now do today's word on for the group, and let's have a good look at the I Ching, shall we? So I'm just going to get the I Ching up. Okay, so we'll do a bit of a reading for the group. Okay. This is a really good one. So yes, this is all about something brewing. So basically, whenever you get this one, this is a something. This is because yeah, I like this one. So basically, what this one is, it's the cauldron. So 56 is the wanderer, the transition. So this is like the pilgrim. So the best what? So 56 is like pilgrim, wanderer, someone who's like a stranger on earth, who's just kind of, transitory, moving from place to place. And then 50 is a cauldron, which is basically means something is literally cooking, something good is brewing. So the wanderer arrives carrying possessions, winning a committed young servant. So this is talking about generally winning people over by good leadership, being modest and flexible, and things like that. So it says life can be reduced to bare necessities and lead to stronger partnerships. So yeah, it's about partnerships, teamwork, things like that. And then 50 means something is brewing, something is cooking. I always like it when I get 50, especially as a second hexagram. That's a really, really good sign. So when I get hexagram 50 as a secondary hexagram, I'm always very happy. I'm always very pleased because it's generally always led to something really good, some kind of transformational experience, something really, really good. So having a look at the James de Corn one and what this one's saying. Just go through this. Yep, so here we are here. So it starts off by saying here, this implies we fear no loss upon our journey. Comes to an end. So in other words, coming to a place of stability. So generally talking about coming to an end with property, it talks about coming to a good place of stability in your life. And by doing that, you win the steadfastness of someone of a younger or whatever else. So that's a really good sign. So retaining a modesty and reserve, it's a good sign for prosperity and stability. That's what this is saying here. The image of a wandering stranger on ego en route to somewhere else, transitory. So it's definitely talking about change and transition, but coming to a place of temporary shelter. So the inn or lodging house is temporary, but it talks about, although we may be transitory strangers, coming to a place of temporary shelter, rest, belongings, and actually somehow, you know, it says winning good help, good servants, good people around you, those who maybe rely upon you, really trusting you for what you're doing. So this is the ultimate summary. One preserves one's gain through a transition and obtains new and untried powers. You have everything you need to succeed. If the emphasis is on the temporary and transitory nature in which one lodges, to be in the world or be in the body. So that's a really, really good hexagram to start, you know, basically to start today. So that's kind of, and then of course, this is a great one for manifestation teaching like we're doing here right now. So very happy that we got that one. And let's just, yeah, continue to move forward. So does that resonate with anyone? Anyone feel that their life's coming to a place of really nice stability at this time? Grace hits the spot, menu and parts. Yeah. So being a message for the group means that, yes, it's definitely giving you a very encouraging message to say that whatever you're doing right now, it's on track for coming towards stability, following your purpose, following your heart, whatever it is you're doing. So now on that note, let's continue on and get on with feeling is the secret, power of your subconscious mind. So this was the teaching that we did previously and what we looked at. So the subconscious mind. So changing your belief systems. So this is what we talked last week. Your refusal to believe is the only reason that you do not see it. And changing your conception of yourself and you'll change the world in which you live. This particular quote has helped me a lot this week. And it's a good challenge for us today, especially with Easter Sunday, to not actually try and change people around us and realize that death and resurrection is happening inside of us. And almost think of anyone in your life right now who you don't like, who's frustrating you, who's causing any kind of, you're feeling like, why are they doing this kind of stuff? And really ask, how is this person telling me who I am? That's my challenge today, to really just think right now, because like today I want to practically apply a lot of this. So just think, is there anyone in my life right now but I'm a little bit charged about, or like, you know, I don't like this person, or my partner's really demanding upon me, or my partner's very detached upon me, or my friend does this to this, or what my mum's been doing this to me all the time. Remember, but they're only a reflection, and the fact that someone is in your life and staying in your life tells you there's still a lesson for you to learn, and there's a lesson for us that person is trying to reveal to us and to show us about ourselves. That can be anything. That can be if you've got the government coming after you to try and you know, do something like a vaccine thing or whatever else. If it's a family member who just consistently is in your case, ultimately they're a teacher for you. I have a situation right now with someone in my life where I've had a profound Easter shift, because it was somebody who 2 days ago I realized that I was kind of saying things to myself like, oh, this person's so like this and they're kind of pushing me so hard for this. And then I stopped and thought, okay, well, this is someone that's important to me and is still in my life. So basically they're telling me who I am. Where am I not seeing it? So how am I doing this to people? How am I being really unreasonably pushy? How am I too coming from a place of scarcity for people around me, like this person's doing with me? How is it that I'm kind of not understanding, because what was frustrating me with this person was they were just saying stuff to me and I thought they just don't understand. So I thought, how am I not understanding them? So I really, really worked on understanding them better. Like, how could I understand this person better? And then I asked myself also, how can I understand people around me better and really understand my business partners better? Because I realized that one of them or two of them I was having some clashes with. How can I understand them better? What is it they're looking to see? You know, what is their frustrations with me? And so I revalued myself, and it was really true. I've been amazed at the change in the last 2 days, how much better I feel about myself. Even last night, what was actually happening when I was talking to this person. And so this is my challenge, is just almost list out right now. Is there anyone in your life, family member, partner, or someone who you really want to change right now? You just like, I really want to change this person, or a government that you're like, I really want to change this government, or I really wish the government wasn't doing this, or I really wish this person wasn't doing this to me, and I really want them to stop doing this. And first go back to yourself, because once you go back to yourself, then you can comfortably set the boundaries very, very easily, because you're coming from that place. And I remember I was saying this to Grace the other day. I said, isn't it interesting? Raymond Grace, I remember having a talk with him, and you very quickly start to think, oh, you know, when you're in the world, you pick up negative energies, you pick it up. I remember saying to him, you know, you must have to clear toxic energy regularly. He goes, not really. He said, I do keep myself clean, like having a bath every day, but I don't really feel people's energy all that much. He said, I just keep my own energy. And he was just very matter of fact about it. And I was like, okay. So I realized that, you know, that's what was happening. So just to type in the text chat, if you can immediately think of at least one person who you straight away know is a messenger telling you who you are, that you've got some messages and some lessons to learn from as a teacher. Yep. At least one person. Anyone else? Yep. Yep, seems like most people. My daughter, Nika. Oh yeah, kids are like the greatest example. John D. Martini says your kids are an exact reflection of you. So you have kids. In fact, Bill McRae used to say that if a child was under 12 and they had asthma, he said, give me their mother for 3 months and I'll cure the child's asthma. He was a psychologist. He said, give me 3 months with mum and I'll fix up the kid, because all that's happening is the kid is manifesting mum's grief and unresolved emotions. And so kids especially manifest the parents. You show me a parent who's very restrictive and tight on their kids, I'll show you a kid who will break out when they get older. That's one of the reasons Grace and I chose to be very liberal with our sons. And in fact, what's funny is they're actually quite conservative, as those of you who know them, because we were very liberal with them. Like, and what's interesting is even like, didn't have a lot of problems with them, because really I can remember as an example, knowing this when William actually asked me when I was 14, you know, when he's 14, 15, he just asked me, we got talking about topics of life, and he asked me about what I'd think if he had sex. And I said, well, obviously, can I stop you? He said, no. I said, well, obviously I can't stop you. I said, I mean, you can go behind my back if I made that rule set. So I just said, but you'd be wise to listen to an adult's guidance before you do it. And I said, that's obviously your choice, isn't it? So guess what? He goes, well, yeah, actually would like your guidance. What would you have to say? And I said, well, I gave him my guidance. And one of the things I said, just keep in mind, if anything happens and someone gets pregnant or you get something else, you're on your own, but I'm not bailing you out. And that helped him. And he very quickly said, yeah, I don't think I want to have it for a while. And he didn't, you know? So it was a really, really, really good example of, you know, so William, for example, is very wise, and many of you see that. And it's like, and really with kids and everything, we can do that. So you can apply feeling as a secret by really applying this with your kids, if you've got kids. If you've got a partner, and this is the biggest one, how many of us get really charged with someone that we love and we're emotionally connected or sexually involved with in some way? Yeah, we very quickly start to do that. Oh, this person's so stubborn with money. Oh, this person always does this. Why do they always do that? Well, the reason they're always doing that is they're giving you a message, and you've got a lesson to learn. You've got something to learn about yourself. And I love reading certain fiction novels by certain authors like Greg Hurwitz or Jack Reacher's Lee Child's books. So I learned so many lessons from these books. And in one of the Greg Hurwitz books, the story was talking about a drug cartel law, but he actually was a good man who was coming out of it. And he used to say, all his wife would say to him when he's having issues with his daughter, he goes, do not try and change her. Just always ask her, what is it I need to understand? Help me to understand. What do I need to understand? And so it's a good chance. So see people that you have issues with as your greatest teachers. And when you evaluate yourself, they in turn will confirm the change. And the simple example I'll give to you is how many of you would actually go and never disrespect Raymond Grace? I think none of you would dare to. Why? Because you can feel there's something about him that values himself, but he wouldn't tolerate you for a minute. So if basically you comfortably disrespect someone or someone's disrespecting you, it's because you're not valuing yourself. And one of the things I love with the Easter death and rebirth, in what is such a great message of Easter, every Easter I always ask myself on Good Friday, what is it that I need to die to and get and reborn to? And every year without fail, there's always something. It's quite amazing. There's a rebirth and a death. And this year there was a couple of attitudes that I decided that I was going to let die. And so often Good Fridays, Friday and Saturdays are challenging days for me, I find. I find that that's normally when I really just sit down and let myself go through my emotions, let myself go through my own crucifixion, go into the gullies of the earth with the Christ, and then resurrect on Sunday. It's something that I always allow myself to do. And this year it was very much about old attitudes with money and business and letting go more. Old attitudes with relationships and who I am moving forward to be with someone and being true to myself. So death and rebirth. This is one of the greatest lessons about manifestation that you'll ever get. Because to manifest something, like Neville Goddard would say, you have to die. And Neville Goddard says this. He says you actually, unless you die to the person you are now, you'll continue to be them. So let's say that you don't like the way you are in relationships. So the worst thing you can actually do is keep being the same person and say, I hope one day I can be like this, because you never will be. One day never comes. You have to die and become the person today that you look to be with in the future. So for example, right now, if you're really unhappy with your financial position, then ask yourself, who do I need to die to today? I've realized for me, I've had to die to the Warren, that's the smart guy who likes to control everything. That's the part of Warren that I've decided to really die. The side of me that really doesn't like the idea of ever working for anyone else. And the changes, for example, I'm making in my life and business and everything else, I'm effectively now, although I'm obviously still an owner, I'm actually now effectively working for the company and working for the main leaders of the company, which I'm not anymore. So I had to really die to my old need to control and my old fear of having people telling me what to do. I'm even dying to my concepts of government, which will shock people who know me, but I've been going through a major death to that on Good Friday. I even said to myself, I'm really going to die to my old concepts of government, because at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, governments have their challenges, but there's also governments are in a way doing their job. And I want to understand governments better. I want to understand why they do what they do. And then I want to understand how to work within those structures to build a better society. And then who will I look at in becoming a new reborn man that can bring constructive solutions in society and manifest a new me? So how do I become that person today? Who do I be today, rather than this is what I want to be? Because when you say I want to be something, you never quite become that person. So this is some scriptures which are really great Easter scriptures, but a really good manifestation feeling as the secret scriptures. Verily, verily, I say to you, the hour is coming, and now is. Now, listen to those words, and now is. The I am. In other words, it's not a case of, verily, verily, I say to you, one day in the future, there will be a second coming of Christ and everything will happen and all will be good again. He's saying the hour has already come when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God, and they that hear shall live. The dead in what? The dead in spirit. This is the dead. The person who's dead in their soul, they hear the Christ consciousness calling to them, Krishna. They come alive, instant, born again, alive. That's now, that's not in the future. Marvel not, for this hour is coming in which all that are in the graves shall hear his voice. So in other words, all that are in the graves, everyone right now that's in the graves, the death, that's happening right now. It's happening today. It's happening in the past. It's happened now. It's happening in the future. And they shall come forth and done good to the resurrection of life and evil to the resurrection of damnation. Probably a better way of putting this would be the following. Marvel not at this, for the hour is coming and now is, in which all that are in the graves shall hear his voice, and are coming forth. Because already history actually shows there are beings who've been raised from the dead. Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. There are people I know who've raised people from the dead. People have come from the graves. And the fact is, we're in life, we're in damnation right now. We live in hell on earth, or we live in heaven on earth, depending on our choices and who we are. So this is, again, talking about the now. I love this scripture because whenever I think about manifestation, it's a command. The voice of the Son of God, the Christ within you. The scripture where Christ said, if you believe something and declare it, it shall be done for you. So the dead, I remember when my knee was injured and I kept saying, my knee is healed. In the name of Christ, heal. And I walked, in the name of Christ, you were healed, and within 3 hours, my knee was good. The dead knee. So if your body has got a dead part, in other words, there's death. Raymond Grace, whenever he would measure people for healing, I can remember when I was having some stuff going on with my knee, he said, well, the spirit of life in your knee is none. It's dead. It's literally energetically dead. So it needs some more love. It needs some, and then you need to ask its forgiveness for abusing it and sending it love. So I spoke life into my knee. I spoke the life of the Son of God. In other words, the life of the Christ into it. And my knee that hurt it could live, because all of our body parts is a living energy that hears the voice of the Son of God. Your finances, they hear the voice of the Son of God. They hear the voice of the Christ within you. And how many of us speak negative stuff over our money? And look, I'm the first one to say, there's times I start to do it. I start to speak as if I'm a certain way. I say, oh no, I'm this, I'm that. And then I start speaking the opposite. Like, oh yeah, I'm a business owner. I'm manifesting wealth. And the next minute I'm talking like an employee, you know? And so it's just what we speak at and how we do. Wayne Dyer told a guy years ago who asked him, how do I become a motivational speaker? He said, easy, just tell everyone I'm a worldwide motivational speaker and I'm magnificently paid for it. He said, what else? He said, that's it. Just do that. And he walked off and left him. And that's what he did and that's what happens. Because your subconscious doesn't know the difference between truth and untruth. It just does what it's told. And I love this one. This is a classic example of feeling as a secret manifestation. Yeshua says to Martha, your brother shall rise again. Martha said to him, yeah, I know he's going to rise again in the resurrection of the last day, one day in the future. Yeshua goes, no. I am the resurrection and the life. He that believes in me, though he were dead, he will live. I am the living resurrection right now. You're here. I'm not the future. I'm here now. You believe in me and your brother resurrects right now, this minute, this second. There was an old thing I was taught in church. Today is a day of salvation. Never tomorrow, today. Today is the day of healing. If you say, you know, one day I know I'm going to be healed from my arthritis. Some stage I'm going to be healed from this. No, subconscious hears, all the subconscious hears is at some stage, not now. What the subconscious wants to hear is I'm healed. I'm already healed. It's already happened. And I'm moving into it and seeing it manifested in the physical realm. I'm seeing it manifest in the physical realm because I am healed. Already, it's done. It's already been done. Now you can choose to say, well, I'm not sure it's done. Then your subconscious goes, okay, I'm not sure either. So let's just keep you in this state of being. Or I'm totally abundant and everything that I need is provided and more. Life is getting better for me. My finances are growing. I am prosperous. The right deal comes my way at the right time. I consistently just seem to have good luck come my way. If you can say that and believe it, and that's the key, and really start to train yourself. Because look, if you can believe the alternative, that everything goes bad for you, never quite works out, and that whenever you invest, you always seem to lose money, then you can always believe the opposite as well. That, or if you believe that, oh, it just whenever things are going well for me, I just suddenly get sick. Yeah, I mean, you can believe that if you want, or you can equally just choose to believe the opposite. The universe doesn't give a shit either way. And that's what Neville Goddard says. It's just a case of what do you choose to believe. The other thing you can choose to say is, well, yeah, I'm actually very healthy. I'm getting better all the time, and I'm noticing that. It's what's been happening. That's what keeps happening to me. I keep getting better and better and better. And even this week, I noticed I was having just unexpectedly a couple of days of tooth starting to play up. Okay, so I know I'm already healed in my teeth. What do I have to understand? What is it that's important for me? And I got a sense of, yeah, very acidic in my stomach. Okay, got to alkalize my body. Okay, I'll alkalize my body. My body's saying, yep, just want you to alkalize me. You've been a little bit heavy on the kind of fruit and the honey, on this and on that. Plus, you've been a little bit anxious and digesting and over worrying. So, okay, so I've got to start being a bit kinder to myself and digesting and being a bit clear in my responsibility and listen to what the messages were, because I'm obviously already healed. I'm just getting a few signs here. And so, I am the resurrection and the life. He believes in me, although he were dead, yet he lives. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. In other words, you won't die. Sammy never died. Sammy has continued to exist and continued to live. Even after her death, you know, what seemed to be her death. Her energy is still around. People are still doing stuff in honor of Sammy. I still find her wisdom come through with healing. I was teaching yesterday. I remembered from the wisdom she taught me. She goes, if your tooth's ever sore, all you got to do is do this, this, and this. She gave me a list of herbal stuff to do. So I just actually remembered it and did it yesterday. And I think within 24 hours, it's made a big difference doing what she taught me. Just one little thing. So Jesus answered and said, you are in error, not knowing the scriptures and the power of God. For in resurrection they don't marry nor giving in marriage. But here's the one, but touching the resurrection of the dead, I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So bingo, in other words, he's saying these guys aren't dead dudes that are written about in the Bible. They're living entities, beings, and energies and gestalts of consciousness. They're here right now. And the multitude go, holy Moses, they were astonished. So I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In other words, I'm not the God of these dead dudes. I'm the God of the living. Napoleon Hill in his Think and Grow Rich actually said that one of the secrets he taught people, as you read one of the last chapters of his books, is he actually said, I remember thinking, who's the 12 most admired business and wealth leaders I've ever met in my life or in history that I read about? And I know one of them, I think, was, he said Abraham Lincoln was one of them. There was someone else. There's a whole list of people. So what he used to do was every night he would imagine all 12 men and women sitting in a room together with him. And he would ask them for counsel on his financial affairs and business. And what would they say? Like, what would Abraham Lincoln say to me? And then he said, I would get an answer. In other words, because he said, because they're not dead. Their consciousness still absolutely 100% lives on. So, for example, you might ask right now, if we're in the world today, I can remember doing this and thinking about Charles Finney, one of my admired revivalists. What would he be telling me? And I actually felt his presence in the car and I started crying. This was years ago. And I felt him there clearly. I could almost see his face. And I felt him telling me. I just said to him, I just desire to see reformation and awakening on my planet like you saw in your time in the Great Awakening in America. And I just felt love. And all I heard from him was that what you're going to see in your day and your time will make what happened in my time look like nothing. You are part of one of the greatest consciousness awakenings in history. And I remember this like, wow. He said, because your awakening is going to impact every area of life and society, whereas mine only impacted some. And I've never forgotten that. And that was one example. I can remember years ago when I really was kind of feeling overwhelmed and out of place in business. My most admired person I've ever met in my life was my Uncle Graham. You know, Grace says Graham and Leslie. Still to this day, if I talk about probably the people I most revere, the greatest people I've ever physically met would be my aunt and uncle. You know, my uncle died about 30 years ago and my aunt died about 3 years ago in COVID. And I can remember something about 5 years ago when I really, really felt overwhelmed after the Council of Nine, just didn't know what to do in business. I just remember asking for my uncle's wisdom. And I felt him there. I actually felt him. And I also asked for Saint Germain, who's a great patron saint of finance. And I actually felt both my uncle and Saint Germain there. And I was crying. I just said, I feel out of my depth. The experiences I've had with the councils and with God, I really, really right now don't know what to do. And of course, the world would say they're now dead, but they weren't dead. Their consciousness was alive, and they actually gave me the exact stuff I know my uncle said. My uncle just said to me, it's okay. Just keep being you, the creator. You know God will always provide. Just do your work. What did I always say, Warren? You serve God and trust God, it will all work out for you. But don't worry, we'll be sending you some help. We're going to send you people to help you. We're going to make sure there's people to help you. We've already got this happening for you. We're sending the people to help you. We're going to look after you. And Saint Germain, which I didn't know at the time, but I found out later, he was actually quite stern and quite strict with finance, because he was very strict with me. Whereas my uncle was very supportive and encouraging. Saint Germain was, but he kind of pretty much the first thing he said to me was, I've got a bone to pick with you. And I was like, really? And it was like, yeah, I've got a bone to pick with you. He said, there's something that you've done which I'm not happy about, and I'm not going to help you till you fixed it. And he told me about something that I'd done and I'd been involved with. And it was a minor thing, but I was like, okay. He said, yep. He goes, it was a minor thing, but he said, this isn't the right thing that you did. So he said, it's minor. I just want you to fix this. And all I want you to do is give a donation for this and do that. And then I'll be happy to work with you. So I did the donation. I did what he said. Then I felt him speak to me. He said, okay, so what you've got to do is bring more order into your business. And he said, and yes, and I will make sure you get people sent to you, and I'll be there to help you. But you need more order in your business. You can't just do things as you feel like it when you want to. That will never really attract stable, ongoing wealth. I can even remember doing it once with King Solomon. I actually thought I'd love to get his wisdom. And I felt King Solomon there. And I know Edward was there, and he remembers when that happened, when there was me and that. And I really felt him, and William did too. He and I, and we felt him there speaking to us, and he was actually telling us. And he was encouraging, but also saying, he said, building wealth requires responsibility. You got to be strict, and you got to run a strict realm. He said, my kingdom was run strictly. You just don't let people do whatever they want when they feel like it. He said, you got to run a strict realm. You got to run things properly and run things orderly. And he said, that's how you build a great empire, and that's how you build a successful business, and that's how you build good wealth. Now, for me, naturally, I'm kind of like that and kind of not, for those who know me. So it was really good wisdom. And so the point is that God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So every name you read in this Bible, keep in mind that the Satanists and the dark occult know that too. So when they see some of the negative, nasty demon names, they call them in and invoke them. And they do this very successfully. Meanwhile, they've cleverly, successfully taught Christians and spiritual people not to kind of, oh, no, you should never do that. You just got to kind of do this and keep things outside of yourself and things like that. So there's some really good manifestation principles that are very deep and profound that I'm sharing here, which hopefully you're starting to get. And this is why we started going into this last week with the 4 principles. So now having gone more deeper into this and about the living in the now, the first thing that I've mentioned was this one. So keep in mind, your subconscious is perfectly happy for you to have whatever beliefs you want. So if your belief is that you're fat and you're ugly, that no one will ever love you, your subconscious will go, okay, well, that's a little bit of a fucked up belief, but okay, no worries. I'll make sure it happens. If you believe that you can't stand up for yourself and that you'll hurt people too much and you've got to be a really nice, beautiful person and never speak with authority to upset people, your subconscious goes, okay, well, that's a bit shitty, but fine. I'll attract people to you who kind of treat you like that. If you decide today that, well, I just want to always lose money from trading because it always happens to me. My father lost money, my mother, and I always attract toxic exes and partners and just seems to happen to me. Subconscious goes, yeah, God, I know, eh? Well, I'll make sure I'll bring along another 1 or 2 along for you if you want. And that way we'll make sure we keep our view of the world going, shall we? Subconscious is extremely literal. This is what Neville Goddard says, very, very literal. So really think about what you actually believe right now and don't lie to yourself. You can lie to everyone else. You can live an illusion, but whatever you do today, do not lie to yourself. What do you really, actually, honestly, truly believe about money? Me, it's interesting. I'll openly tell you, it took me a long time to train, and some of it I'm still realizing that I'm working on because I grew up very much. I'll tell you one thing I learned early on, which I was very blessed. I was always taught that God provides abundantly for your needs. You never have to worry about that. That's one thing my mum taught me from young, one thing my uncle taught me, that you never have to worry about provision for your basic needs. God will always look after his children. So that's one thing that's never really been a big issue for me. Some people struggle and fear for their survival. That was never really a big issue for me because I was taught that from young. By contrast, I was also taught by being rich, you could lose your spirituality and you can become greedy. So hence for me, as soon as I started to get rich, those beliefs come up. Then I have to go, okay. And naturally, the unconscious goes, oh, shit. And so it goes, I better make sure we, you spend some money on something this or lose some money on some investments or do something very quickly. Because this is kind of getting bad. Your spirituality is going to be affected. You're going to possibly go greedy, and that's not going to be good. That's one thing I realized. Another one was I realized was about accumulation of wealth. Like accumulating wealth will stop me inheriting the kingdom of heaven. And for me, that's been a very difficult belief to change. And what I've done in the end is I've actually realized that once I moved into foundations, it became easier. Because now it's like, well, yeah, I don't accumulate for myself, but I accumulate for the foundation to do good by society and leave a legacy. So now, and then I can give and do more good with it. So now that actually aligns with my deepest core beliefs, and I can much more easily do it. And I'm starting to become more comfortable with the concept of doing it. So your subconscious really doesn't know the difference. And that's just an example. So another example I was taught was, God lets you get your wants within limits, but you get too much wants, you become too pleasure seeking. Now there's some truth in that. So generally I don't have a lot of problem, again, getting things I like doing, but at a certain level, I notice I kick in and go, oh, is that the right thing to do? And bit by bit, I'm noticing as I just remind myself, and again, I've had to negotiate between with my unconscious. How I've done it is go, okay, well, if I make a bit of money, make sure that people around me looked after, who are important to me, make sure I give something to do good, and then I can reward myself and do something really special for myself. So the subconscious doesn't know the difference. So just really contemplate right now if there's any of your unconscious beliefs for this Easter Sunday that you really would like to transform. Just stuff that you're realizing that you believe, but you're willing to start saying something different. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. Most of what you say about yourself is total shit anyway. Like the number of times women and men walk around saying, I'm fat, when you're not really. Or I look ugly today. Or I'm having a really bad hair day. I mean, it's not actually true. No one else sees that. Or man, I'm really bad at piano. Whereas everyone else might say, actually, you're pretty damn good at piano. So think of how many stupid, negative things you say about yourself and lie to yourself all the time. So my challenge today on Easter Sunday is why not lie about something to your subconscious, which is actually good and positive. I can remember one of the things I started doing with myself that was pretty funny when I started pole dancing. I noticed some shame came about my body, which I dealt with, but then I started looking at myself in the mirror and going, well, Warren, you're a pole dancer, dude. You're a stripper. You're fucking hot. Everyone wants, and you're a good catch. Women want you. And at first I felt a bit silly, but I thought, now and I just kept saying it. And I thought, who knows? And the more I said it, the more I actually started to believe it. And I noticed my whole self-worth and belief in myself, my body has improved, my energy's gone up, everything. Because that's what I've been saying about myself. And when I look at myself in the mirror, like, man, your stomach's good. It's getting slimmer, you're getting stronger, your body's getting stronger, you're getting better and better health. And I've been saying, many people know, but I say, I'm Benjamin Button. I get younger. As each year goes by, I'm going younger and younger. And in the Narnia series, in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, that's what happened as they entered the last sea. They started to get younger and younger. And that always excited me because I know that was a secret Moses discovered. And why at age 120, he was in perfect health as a youth when he gave up his body on Mount Carmel. And exactly when Elijah kind of left and Enoch. So I just say that. I just every year I'm like Benjamin Button, I get younger and younger. I look better and better. And people who see my photos from 5 years ago to now, I mean, I look at it and go, wow, I look a completely different man. Because that's what I'm speaking about myself every day. I'm convinced aging happens simply because we speak about it and we believe it to be true. That's just my current belief. And everything is energy. Raymond Grace showed this with Jeff Jones, who literally said 25 years ago, every time I eat, I drink water, this gives me all the minerals I need. He has decided he didn't want to eat anymore. He didn't like eating. He hated it. Hasn't eaten for 25 years. The only thing he occasionally nibbles on is a few pieces of popcorn for a treat. And the guy looks in good health, looks fantastic. I remember getting some time with him at one of Raymond's seminar, and it was brilliant. He did it with his finances. He just used to say, well, he was in huge debt at the time. He said, well, my finances are energy. I'm already financially free. My debts are resolved. I'm in financial freedom and everything's getting good quickly. And within a matter of weeks, he made the biggest sale of mining equipment in the history of America. And overnight paid all his debts off and became financially independent, just like that. And that was because he spoke about it. Tony Robbins speaks about a guy who just kept saying, I'm telling you, I'm going to win the lottery. And Tony Robbins said, I made the mistake of even saying, well, look, that's not quite how you play this. He goes, well, it is how I'm playing it. I want to win the lottery. It's got to set me up for life. And then I use the money. He said, I know it's mine. The lottery's mine. I won it. And the guy did. He had a huge win. So everything is energy, and energy can be transformed. So that's really your challenge, just to really sit down and think, what beliefs today do I really wish to change? Which beliefs today do I really wish to transform and have a new belief and become a new person today on Easter Sunday? What is it that I want to let die and reborn around money, around relationships, around my health? And really write these down. Really don't let today be a Netflix show where you just get entertained and then go away. But let today be at least one thing that you go away from which you transform. That's my challenge to each of you. And when you do, the next thing that Goddard teaches is make sure that you allow yourself to go to sleep tonight, or even have a meditative rest after the webinar if you feel to, where you allow yourself to go into a deep kind of sleep type state, where you allow it to integrate the new being and just say, I already know this is who I am and I'm getting better. I was doing that last night as I went to bed, and I said, well, as I go to sleep, my gums are going to heal better. I'm going to be in better shape in my mouth. And I've already noticed the change today. So again, making sure you sleep. The power of prayer. How does the power of prayer fit in with this? Well, again, it's the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So this is the feeling, it's a secret, which I mentioned. That the thing that we talked about is training yourself into feeling. Really feel yourself financially with your needs and you're abundantly met. Know that it's well and truly looked after. Get the feeling of your needs met. Really, really met. Get the feeling of that relationship that you're in being completely different. One of the most remarkable changes I've seen in someone in recent months, and I'll say this publicly, is Grace, who I work with in the church. She has done some like transformational changes where I've just been like, wow, I've seen a new strength and humility and leadership come into her in the last 6 months I've never seen before. And I don't know if some of the others who work closely with have noticed that, but I've just seen it. There's a new leadership, there's a new strength, there's a new responsibility. But I can tell you now, yeah, that's obviously been her. But one of the things I did, which I didn't actually tell her about, was some months ago, I did that. I changed my perception of her, because Raymond Grace said, if you speak and see someone as they are now, they'll stay that way. If you see them as someone different to who they are, they'll start doing that. So I just started seeing her as that way, because I thought, I know she's that way. I know Grace is really a good leader. I've always seen that in her. I've seen the way she does that in so many areas. I've seen her tremendous leadership as a mother. So I know she's got that in business. I know she's got that in the church. So that's how I'm going to see her. And I made sure that everyone around her, I speak about her like that. And so she started living it. And I have no doubt she's been doing the same with me, because I've been doing it with her. She's probably picked it up. She hasn't said anything to me. And then she's been doing it with me and imagining me doing certain things, letting go more and having fun. So we can really help each other's growth and consciousness by doing this. So it's the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So we can do this for others around us, and we can actually do it for ourselves. You know, we can actually do it for ourselves. So we can start to see ourselves as a whole new, different person. Like one of the things I started doing with myself, for example, because I actually realized one of the reasons I'd had challenges in relationships, you know, I've been very fortunate. I've had generally pretty good partners, you know, Grace, Sammy and all that. But at the same time, I realized there's certain things about me. I thought, I reckon I'd like to see myself lift my game to experience more love. And I realized that one of the things I was often frustrated about was wanting more connection with the women I was with and feeling certain things. I actually realized that the biggest block was me. So I thought, because I had this kind of belief about myself, so I started saying, well, yeah, I'm allowing myself to be feminine as well as masculine in a relationship. I'm allowing myself to be a responsible man and a good leader for a woman. And I read this quote in a Greg Hurwitz's book, which is the fiction novels, where the main character, who's a world-class assassin, one of his commandments is how you do anything is how you do everything. So his mentor would say that to him. So if he did dishes really well. If he cleaned his house was perfect. If he said he would do something for someone, he would do it magnificently. If he said if he would start seeing someone, he would give it his best. And I thought, that's my new motto. How I do anything is how I do everything. If I'm going to basically do my washing, I'll do that well. You know, if I'm going to have my office set up, I'll do my office well. If I'm going to be in a relationship, I'm going to do it well. Give it my best. If it turns out, but rather than thinking, oh, I'll just be careful just in case she doesn't give it her best, because that was something my uncle used to do. My uncle's rule was always give your best, no matter what others do, because you're doing it for yourself. So I thought, what if I just gave any girl I was seeing my best? If she didn't reciprocate, eventually I would move on naturally anyway to find someone who would give me the same as I was giving them. And that's been quite a profound shift for me. How can I give my best to my clients more? How can I give my best to the business more? How can I give my best to God more? How can I give my best to the planet more? And things like that. So you start to feel yourself in that situation of the answered prayer. And when you live and you act upon that conviction and really give your absolute best to anything that you're doing. So really feel whatever it is you'd like to see transformed today and be that person, is feel yourself as having that answered. Feel yourself as that great business owner who's leading, who's humble, who's transforming, and who's just seeing everything happen easy with the team coming together, for example. See yourself as an investor where it's just really well managed, really orderly, you're very detached from the outcome, you're comfortable with setbacks, and you see the money coming in and giving the money away, whatever it is that makes you feel good. See yourself basically comfortably able to pay and go on trips you enjoy. See your children as successful people. Something that we always did, Grace and I, with our sons. I would always speak certain scriptures over my sons. A very good example of one of my favorite ones, I used to speak over them a lot and even got them praying over himself, was Psalm 128, where it says this. It says, blessed is everyone that fears the Lord, that walks in his ways. So I spoke this over myself and Grace when the boys were young. For you will eat the labor of your own hands. In other words, you will enjoy your produce and your work. You'll be happy and it shall be well with you. Your wife shall be a fruitful vine and your children like olive plants around the table. Thus shall the man be blessed that fears the Lord. And the word fear means reverence in that one. Like, in other words, it reverences God's law, reverences the higher law. So I would say that my children flourish in the house. Grace flourishes. She's a fruitful vine. My sons are flourishing in everything they're doing. And then Psalm 127, I love this one. I would always say this, unless the Lord, and the Lord, Joseph Murphy and Neville Goddard says, is like the higher mind, the higher intelligence, the higher God, the higher counsels. Unless the Lord, the higher counsels, your higher intelligence builds the house, you labor in vain that build it, because trying to force things and make things happen without feeling it is hard work. If you're trying to build something when you're not actually feeling it, like feeling is a secret, you're going to eventually sabotage it. Unless the Lord watches over the city, in other words, unless the Lord watches your wealth, protects your assets, all your asset protection strategies are in vain. It is vain for you to rise up early, sit up late, and worry your blooming brains out thinking, how am I going to do it? Because he gives his beloved the power of sleep to manifest everything that he's promised them in their sleep. So whatever you command your subconscious to believe, sleep and rest and letting go allows God to manifest it for you. If you choose not to sleep and worry and race, God goes, can't help. And when I say God, that inner higher mind goes, okay, fine, I'll stay out of it. And I'd speak this over my son. Children are a heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that has his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but shall speak with their enemies in the gates. I'd always say, my sons are my voice for the business, for my life, for greatness. That's their job. That's who they are. And guess what? It's happened. And you can see how it's talking about honoring the higher law. So when it talks about fear the Lord, like in Psalm 128, I think this Proverbs 3 is a really good one to read. So it says, do not forget my law or keep my commandments. In this particular section was what I spoke over my life and over my family. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. In other words, trust in that higher mind, this higher consciousness, this higher provision of my heart, knowing and feeling everything. And don't lean upon your own mental limited understanding, but tries to work it all out. And this one is more accurately translated, make your ways the higher ways. In other words, let your actions align with the higher path. Let your actions align with the higher path. In other words, it's great to feel it, great to let go, but then let your actions follow up. And then he, the higher mind, shall direct your path and cause everything to naturally manifest in its own good time. So feel it, let go of overthinking, let your actions follow suit, and things will come together. And then don't be wise in your own eyes. In other words, don't think you know all the answers. But again, this idea of reverencing the law, the higher mind and higher law, depart from evil, depart from doing things that go against your own higher truth. It shall be health to your navel and marrow to your bones. In other words, this is exactly aligned to Louise Hay mind body. You do stuff that's detrimental to your inner truth, it will be disease or lack of ease. It will be health to your flesh and marrow to your bones. I used to I quote the scripture regularly over my life and seen that blessing come and be there. So you can see all this here, the power of prayer. And that is why Jesus basically said, well, if you actually did not doubt in your heart, you could even tell a mountain to go and jump in the sea and it will do it. That is how much we have the power to move heaven and earth if we believe it. The critical words is believe you've already received it and then you will have it. And finally, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and observe the root. In other words, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit. So in other words, let spirit lead you. Don't force it, nothing else. Just basically believe it, see it, know it. Remember the scripture which says he gives his beloved rest. Allow yourself to sleep. Use that power and then just have the feeling of the wish fulfilled and let go and know it's done. Here's a practical tip for you. This is one of the reasons why many go wrong is people go, oh, great. And they go walking around manifesting every day. Oh, yes, I am healed. I have this. And one of the things that I would say is, let's just say that you got told tomorrow, well, right now, that you're receiving $1 million inheritance tomorrow, and you knew it was yours. You've been given the document, it was given, and you knew it was coming in the next few days or next month. Yeah, you probably would be very excited, but would you be walking around saying, I've got this inheritance, I've got it? More likely than not, you go, great, I've got it. Let's say that you're already married in a happy relationship. You're going to run around saying, I'm married. Yes, I'm married. No, because you are. You know you have it. You don't need to keep going around affirming it. Ironically, running around doing lots of affirmations furiously is usually a sign that you don't actually believe you have it. The best thing you can do, for example, I'm not saying on the other hand you don't do any affirmation or that. The best thing you can do is, let's say your affirmation is right now and you've had what I call arthritic symptoms. So don't call it arthritis, because then you've given it a name. I always say, okay, there's been symptoms that might be called arthritis. Well, okay, great. Firstly, thank you for the message, body, that you're guiding me and showing me some alignment. So I know that my core, essence, and etheric body and heart, I'm already healed. And I thank you that I'm healed. Okay, and thank you that I'm being guided towards the right steps to look after myself and radically be in better health than I've ever been in my life. Thank you for that. And then let go. Go to sleep and notice what happens. I remember when I did that. Woke up, just had this sense I have to change my diet. Then I had this sense I have to go on a fast. Then over the next days, I had a sense to go and do some yoga. Then I had a sense to do some visualization. And bit by bit, it got to the point where I wasn't even thinking about it anymore. And before I knew it, it was gone. So to finish off today, that's your practical exercise. To go ahead right now and just think about the things that have been said today and what beliefs that you're now going to alter and change and apply these principles. And please write in the chat if anyone is happy to share, just share in the chat basically what actions you're going to be taking, like any particular beliefs that you've been impacted by, or any particular lesson that you've learned today. It'd be really great to get some feedback from you. And while we're waiting for that, and for you to put your feedback in the chat, I'll invite Grace to come back on. And, you know, if William's there, he can come back on too.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
I actually went through at the beginning a summary of the book.
Right. Okay.
It's good. It's complimentary, you know. Yeah, quite pertinent. The message, isn't it? Particularly, it's Easter weekend.
Yeah.
And the symbolism of the death and resurrection.
Pretty pointed, isn't it?
Mm. Mm. So what did anyone?
Did anyone learn anything? Hopefully. Did anyone get anything out of it?
Actually, what I got out of is too. I'm rereading Think and Grow Rich again by Napoleon Hill, and they are so similar messages. These two.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Christine, you wanted to say something?
Oh, yes, I was just going to say they're really great reminders for me. I've read the book and I've been, you know, I really just wowed me the first time I read it, the little book of The Feeling is a Secret. But it's good to go through it again and sort of pull it all to pieces. And one of the things that really is quite remarkable, apart from all the things for my own self, is thinking about others differently and feeling how they are differently. And that was a really good reminder for me today, because if you stop judging people and start thinking about them in a different way, it certainly makes a difference. And I've seen that once or twice when I've done it before, and it was a really good reminder. And just going through all of that stuff was really good. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's true. We do it so easily, don't we? We judge people and we start moving away from ourselves.
Yeah, it's really important.
Mm. And also,
because as you say, it does mirror. They do mirror ourselves. And when you're talking, I could see where I was doing something that the person that I was thinking about was doing, and I thought, wow, that's a good message. Yeah, so it's really important to keep remembering that.
Well, I remember once Anthony Robbins once said, and I've never forgotten it, he said that if you say that, let's say you really desire to have love, like in a relationship. And he said, but then you basically, he said, where does love start? It starts by you first being in love. And he said, you being in love has got nothing to do with the other person loves you. He said, is there anyone here who's ever been in love with someone who hasn't loved them back? And of course, people said, well, yeah. And he goes, but was the feeling any less real because they didn't love you back? And I remember thinking, no, he's actually right. So he said, the feeling was never about the other person, it was about you. And I thought, that's actually really powerful. He said, so when you're in love, you're doing it for you. He said, the other thing he said, I've never forgotten, because I always had a big challenge about, you know, not wanting to lose my power because of my upbringing and, you know, wanting freedom. But he said, many people, like men, have difficulty being in a relationship because they're wanting freedom. But he actually said, what greater freedom could there be? He said, than being in a really good relationship with someone that you love, which gives you even freedom to go out and do other stuff without being distracted. And I remember thinking, that's actually a complete opposite perspective. It flipped the whole thing on its head. It was a really good example of how you can flip something on its head and have a different perspective.
You're welcome, Miko.
Yeah, thank you, Miko. Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you, Minu, as well. I like what Minu says too.
Yeah, it's really good.
Being reborn,
Good. So actually you finished pretty early, Warren, which is good.
yeah.
So
No,
on to our long weekend, whatever everyone's doing.
yeah, no, I enjoy doing it. I'm really happy and excited what's happening. So.
Oh, it's wonderful. All right. Any last thoughts, everybody?
Yep, and thank you for those who donated last week. We've already sent some money through, and we're looking at using it for, yeah, and yes, and the guy's already been busy talking with places that could be helping, you know, handicapped kids over in Bali who really haven't got proper support. I've also asked him to, you know, for future donations to look into as well, people who really need health operations or work done over in Bali but just couldn't afford it, because I know what it's like to suffer bad health and been fortunate enough to be able to fix it. So I've just, so everyone knows, I've specifically said, look into that and see if there's any projects as well with these places where people actually really need medicine or, you know, health or help with their health. So.
That's good. I'm actually excited with that one. Really, really good. This is just the start of many.
Absolutely.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much, Lauren. Thank you everyone for being here again. And love to see you next time. Have a good day.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.